Hello and welcome to this Remindo training. This training will teach you how to use the Remindo digital testing environment. The training is targeting those persons who are technical approvers. As a technical approver, your role will be to ensure that the questions, answers, allocated points, learning outcomes, and Bloom's taxonomy levels are correctly represented in Remindo. The technical approver does not carry out a content-related role. You will need 4 tools to carry out your job. First, the exam preparation chart for Remindo, which will likely be on the T drive, the checklist for quality assurance, available among the information and resources provided with this video, permissions to use Remindo as an author. Generally, this is already in place, but if you find that you don't have access, please ask a key user to give you the access as an author. And finally, you will need an access link, which is listed here and also available in the resources provided with this video. To gain entry, use the link provided, keeping in mind that you may also have to authenticate yourself as you would in Osiris or the T drive. Here is the interface that you will see when you first come into Remindo. There is a question bank and a test area. For this part of the process, you will need to go to the question bank. Once in the question bank, you will see this interface. In the middle, you will see a lot of questions if there have been questions already added to the bank. Otherwise, this will be empty. And to the left side, you will see the faculty, the name of the program, as well as any courses that have already been tested. We're interested in this left side because we must find the course for which we want to approve questions. We do that by pressing on the triangular signs that are to the left. So if the faculty is not visible, you should press that triangle to make that part visible. And then you should press the triangle to the left side of the program to see the courses that are in the program. You see 2 sets of question banks here. One of the question banks I have set up for training purposes, and we will open that question bank by pressing the triangle here. And there below, there's a drop-down menu of learning outcomes. All learning outcomes from a course will appear in Remindo. They are placed there by the key users. In some cases, there may be questions already attached to the learning outcomes, but there could also be cases where questions do not appear with a learning outcome, as is indicated here. When we take a closer look at the top row of the questions, we can see certain aspects that relate to each of the questions. For example, we have codes there. We can see that at least one question doesn't have a code. We have the status. The status right now is concept, but this can also be changed to approved, which is what your job is to do if you are the approver. As we go back and look at the next column, we see that you can see the type of question, and then you can also know who input the question. You can see how many points are assigned to the question, and there seems to be a problem here because one question only has 1 point assigned. So this information is very important for us to understand what's happening with our questions in the question bank and whether there may be some errors. We can already see here that the code and the amounts of points given seem to already have errors involved, and we may need to make changes there. This is the first tool that you will use. This is the actual exam preparation chart, which was used by the lecturer on the course to place all of the questions for the exam. The left column has the questions along with the answer choices. The column next to that tells you the correct choice, and the learning outcome is indicated in the next column, and the Bloom's taxonomy level in this fourth column. The fifth column lists all of the learning objectives. The first four columns are what you are interested in as the approver. You will check to make sure that each of the questions has been transferred correctly into Remindo, as well as the answer choices. You will check to also ensure that the correct answer is indicated for every question, and that each question is connected to a learning outcome, and finally, that they have a Bloom's taxonomy level. This is the Remindo checklist for quality assurance, which is part of the resources that are provided with this video. In this checklist, you will need to navigate to the portion of the checklist that relates to the technical approver. When you get to that portion of the checklist, you will notice that the first part, the title, gives you, again, the main part of your role. In addition, I've included a section that describes what's needed for the task, which we've already talked about. And finally, below this section, you will see some prompts that will allow you to go through the approver process and ensure that you have checked each part of a question for quality purposes. You're expected to look at the question and answer choices that are given for each question and ensure that they actually match what is found on the offline exam preparation chart. You then look at the question to see if the correct answer has been assigned to the question and that it matches the one that is listed in the offline chart. Each question has a code, and you will ensure that the code has been recorded. You should also check to make sure that the proper number of points were allocated to the question and that the question is matched up with one of the Bloom's taxonomy levels. If there is media that is included with the question, you should check to make sure that the media is the correct media. Not every question will have media. This is optional. Finally, you yourself will have to change the question from being a concept to an approved question. And that is your real actual final step. But you should also check to make sure that altogether you've approved the total number of questions that were inside of the exam as it stands in the offline exam preparation chart. We're ready now to take a look at our questions. The important thing here is to recognize that by choosing the level of the course itself, we will be able to see all questions that have been entered in the question bank on the right side. You will have many more questions when you look at your own test. As you take a look at the 3 questions here, you will notice that the code is missing from this first question. And if we go there and click on the question itself, then we will see in the preview below, on the preview menu, we will see the actual question and we will see the way it looks. And this is a useful menu because it gives us the question itself, it tells us the correct answer, and then how many points have been allocated to that question as a whole, in this case 2.5. We also see that we can compare with our quality checklist and with the offline chart
whether or not the question itself was properly translated into Remindo, and whether all four answer choices match the answer choices that we see in the offline exam preparation chart. This is, of course, one of the first steps that you will find on the quality checklist. The correct answer has been indicated, that's in green, and we should check to make sure that that is actually the correct answer as it appears on the offline chart. Once we've checked all of these four answer choices and the correct answer, if we see something wrong, we can edit the question. When you edit the question, you come to another menu, and there you can make changes. I will explain at the end of this video how to add your changes into this white area and how to go about saving this as a modified question. But that will be later in the video. Again, when we go back and we're done, then any changes that we made would again show up in this preview area. As you notice, we also are missing a code. We can't change the code in the preview area. We have to go to the settings area. So if we click on the settings tab, then we can see that there is a place where we can enter the code. At this point, I'm just putting Osiris code, but you will get more information and details as we continue to develop in Remindo what we should put in this area. This area can be edited at any time, and it does not need just to have numbers there. Save your answer below. Double check all of the other information. For example, make sure that everything there is also correct. In this case, we have a summative exam, and we do not want to have a paper exam. We also do not want to make this available as a formative exam question. So we can double check to make sure that everything there has been properly indicated. The difficulty level is normally not something we change. The language should already be defaulted to English, and we don't have calculators, so that's the default setting. Save. And then you will see above that now there is an actual code that is set for this question. Again, the properties and the preview show us this, but the code is not in this part. So nothing has changed in our preview window. Jumping over to the properties window, we want to take a look here at the actual property that's been assigned. That is the Bloom taxonomy level. Every question needs to have a level here. If there were no level added to this question, we would need to add a property in order to put the proper Bloom's taxonomy level into the question. However, this question is done correctly, so we don't have to make any changes to it. When we go back to the preview, again, we can check on this question and we see that the correct question is indicated, and in the properties we have the correct property that is there, and then we can look in the categories menu. The categories menu will tell us where it is inside of the question bank. It tells us the faculty, it tells us the program, it tells us the course, and then the last thing it tells us, which is most important for us, is the learning outcome. If it's been assigned to a learning outcome, then we will see it. Here, we can now approve this because it has everything that we want it to include. We don't need to write anything here, but you do have a possibility to write any details you want. And then you will notice that this question now has been approved at the top. It is no longer a concept like the ones below it. It is a question that is fully ready to be added to a test. Let's take a look now at another question, and let's approve this question together. We go to the second question and we click. We come down again to make sure we're in the preview menu. And then we look at the question and we compare it to what's inside of the offline exam preparation chart. We ensure that the question is correct as well as the 4 answer choices that are there. We also ensure that there's a green line highlighting at least one answer choice, and it should be the correct answer choice that is on the offline chart, and it should have some points assigned to it. So once we have verified that all of those are correct and that everything looks fine, we don't need to edit the question. We then go to the settings. Let's look at the settings. It has a code, so that's correct. We see that it's properly designating that there's no paper test here. We also know that it's not to be used as a formative test, and therefore we don't have a yes there. Instead, we have a yes below in the summative. We skip down to make sure that the other defaults are in place, and then we save. Now we need to look at the properties. Here we notice that there are properties, but the missing property needs to be added because we do not have here a Bloom's taxonomy level. That tells us that we should add a property by clicking on add a property on the right hand side of this bar. When we click there, then we get a menu. It allows us to choose a property by pressing the toggle, and when we toggle on there, we get some possibilities. In our case, we want to choose Bloom's taxonomy, and then we want to choose the correct level. In this case, it's understanding. So we click there, and now we save. Now you will see an additional property, the Bloom's taxonomy property has been added here. Now we can go to our categories tab, and by pressing on the categories tab, we check, is it the correct faculty? Is it the correct program? Is it the correct course? And does it have the correct learning outcome? All of those are there. We double check the learning outcome again on our offline chart. If it is the correct learning outcome and everything is fine, then we don't need to drag and drop anything here because it seems to be correct. So what's left to do? To go back to the preview and to actually approve this question. Now this question is approved and we save. We see the change there to approved from concept. Let's go to our third question. And that question seems to have a lot of problems because we already have a warning sign saying that this is not a valid question. Actually, the lecturer should have seen this, but if they don't and you see this, then you know that there is a problem here. Edit the question, and I will show you more about that later in the video, but you will need to edit this question because it has not given an actual answer choice. And when you go to edit the question, you're going to need to go into the settings and change the answer choice. I will show you how to do that later on in the video. Let's presume that those things are now taken care of. Once you have done that properly and you do have a designated answer there, then you can continue with the approving process. Once again, checking and knowing that your edit was successfully input. You can move now to categories. Here you see the faculty, you see the program, you see the course, and you see the learning outcome. But unfortunately, this learning outcome is actually not the learning outcome that you should have received. So you need to go to the learning outcomes and find the correct learning outcome. And you need to drag that learning outcome into the drag and drop area. When you do that, it turns a different color, and then you will see two things there. You need to then delete the one that was incorrect. To delete the one that was incorrect, you click on it, and you can press the little deletion area that looks like a trash can. You can copy and paste that into the area, and you can confirm, and it deletes it. Now you double check. Did you correctly line it up? Oh, no, it was not correctly lined up. You need to do it again. Bring it back down. You deleted the incorrect one, so be careful this time. You should delete this second one. Delete that. Yes. Now you take it and you copy paste to confirm that you're making this change. And now you double check, is it correctly set up? Is it in the correct one? Yes, it is. Now you know that it has been properly placed in the right learning outcome. This is now ready to be approved because it seems to have all of the things that we want to see. Let's go to the properties, the preview, and let's approve it. And now we have 3 approved questions in the question bank, and that means that we have successfully done what we should do as the technical approver. So if you edit the question, you will come back to what is the original screen for creating a question. And it's important here to choose the settings button, which is this gear button right here. And when you click on it, you will come into the environment where you can make changes to this question. So for example, if the question had the total score as something other than 2.5, in this box, you would need to go and make the change there. Suppose, for example, that the correct answer was not this C, but another one. You would go to the correct answer, for example, if it were A, and you would press correct right here, and that changes the correct answer, as you can see, to that choice. I'm going to change it back here. And then, after you've made all of the changes that you think needed to be made based on your review, then you need to save the question. Again, do not forget to save, and also do not choose save question as a new copy because you want to save it with the changes you've made. You may want to indicate so that the lecturer can see why you've had to come in and change the question in some way. So you can put text in here to explain what happened. Wrong number of points, for example. And that will give the lecturer more information for why this was changed. As the technical approver, you ensure that everything that has been placed on the offline exam preparation chart has been correctly translated into Remindo. You check for answer choices, that the correct answer is indicated, and you also check for the point allocation. You also ensure that there is a Bloom's taxonomy level that has been added to the question and that the question has been properly linked to a learning outcome. After correctly doing this, then you will approve the question. You will then at the end ensure that all of the questions that were originally listed on the exam chart, the offline chart, are also represented in the Remindo environment and that they have all been properly approved.